Hey there, and welcome to exercise number 84. If you want to solve this one on your own, then click on the link in the description. If not, keep watching and we're going to solve it together. In this exercise, we need to write a function named createLinkedList that receives one parameter. An array of numbers we're going to call initialNumbers. And it's important to note that this array contains at least one number. The function should return an object representing a linked list with the numbers from the array. And I added here a short link to a Wikipedia article that describes what a linked list is and why is it different than an array, for example. Now, going back to our exercise, I know that Wikipedia article is a bit long, so not everybody will read that, but don't worry, you can still solve this exercise by looking at the example and seeing how this data structure works and how we should return it. Now, coming back, the object should have, so the linked list should have the following methods. The first one is push and receives a number as a parameter and adds it to the end of the list. The second one is unshift, a function that receives a number as a parameter and adds it to the beginning of the list. And then another function named getStart that returns the start node of the linked list that should have two properties, and this is very important. Value, the number value of this element, and next, the next element in the list, or null if this is the last element. Now that we've read the description, let's look at the example below because I think this will help to make things a lot clearer. So we create a linked list by calling createLinkedList and passing it an array with three numbers, 1, 2, and 3. Then we're going to console log linkedList.getStart. And what will this print? Well, it will print an object with the properties value and next, as you can see here in the description. Value is going to be 1 because this is the starting element of the list, and next is going to be another object, right? Because we have an element after this one. Now this other element is going to have value 2, right? And then this one also is going to have a next property that's going to point to the last element in this case, which is value 3, and it's going to have next null. Why? Because this is the last element in our linked list. And you can see here, this is like the difference between a linked list and an array. A linked list is more of like an object with nested objects inside, and you can go to the next one and then to the next one and so on. Now, continuing our example, let's say we want to add number 4 to the end and number 0 to the beginning. And then we're going to print getStart. Now, this should start now with 0, which is going to have a next property, which is going to be value 1, is going to have next 2, 3, and the last one is going to be 4, which will have next null. Now that we've read the description, let's go here into the right side and solve this exercise. The first thing I want to do is let's create the linked list with the initial numbers, right? So I'm going to do const linked list is. So the value is going to be initial numbers of 0, and next initially is going to be null. Because the description says this array contains at least one number. So if it only contains one, it's going to be null here. There's no other element. So this is the initial value. Now, the initial numbers may contain more than one element, right? We have here 1, 2, 3. So let's add those to the list. So I'm going to do for if I is 1, I is less than initial numbers dot length I plus plus, right? We're going to need to add each item to the linked list. So for example, the item at index 1 is going to have to be put to next here. So I'm going to need to create another variable, let's say current, or actually latest node, latest element is initially linked list. And here I'm going to do it like this. Latest element dot next is value initial numbers of I next null, and we're going to move it to the end. So I'm going to say latest element is equal to latest element dot next, right? So initially the latest element is the first one. Then I'm going to add this element to the latest one using the next property, and I'm going to move the latest element to the end. So that's that. And finally, let's return it, linked list. And now if I did this correctly, I should be able to take those two lines of code here from the left side, and let's make this bigger. I should be able to take those two lines of code. Let's print it And oh yeah, of course, because getStart doesn't exist. So we don't need to return linked list. Sorry, we need to return an object with push, unshift, and getStart. So getStart, let's just do that. And this one is going to return linked list. And if we look here, we have, okay, value 1, next is an object, good. Value 2, next is an object, very good. Value 3, next is null because 3 is the last element. Great. So it works to create the initial linked list. That's good. Now we need to add the functions push, which is going to get a number, and unshift, which is going to get a number, right? So we need to add those two functions. Now let's do push. Since we already have latest element here, we can just add it to the latest element. So I'm going to say latest element dot next is value number, next null, this is the last one now, and latest element is equal to latest element dot next. So I move the latest element to the last one. And if this is correct, then I should be able to do here linked list dot push 4, and we should see number 4 arriving in the console. So 2, 3, 4, null. Perfect. Now we need to also implement unshift. And to do this, well, the first element is actually linked list. And now I realize this, so I can just say first element, right? This is the first element, but it's also kind of like the linked list itself. Yeah, let's just leave it to linked list. So unshift is going to need to add an element to the beginning, a function that receives a number and adds it to the beginning of a list. So I'm going to create a new element. Let's say new beginning, new, let's say start element is value number. Next is going to be linked list. So this one is going to have a value and is going to point to the previous first element, right? I added before it. But now I also need to reassign this. So I'm going to say linked list is equal to new start element. And if I did this correctly, I should be able to do here linked list dot unshift of 0. And okay, invalid assignment to const. Yeah. Let's just do let here. And let's look at the result. So we should start from 0 now because I added this to the beginning. So 0. Then I should have 1, then 2, then 3, then 4, and then finally next null, which is great. This seems to be working, so let's test our solution. And we get an error, which is fine, We're just going to solve it live. So let me just move stuff from here. So it says the function doesn't work as expected. So linked list creates a new linked list, then pushes 4, pushes 5, and gets the start. And the output should be 1, 2. This is the expected output, 3, 4, 5. And my output is, oh, yeah, there's a bug in the test. Now I realize this. Next, the next element in the list, or null if this is the last element, but the test doesn't expect this to be null, which is a big problem. So I'm gonna fix this, and yeah, I'm just gonna go fix it right now, and I'm gonna cut the video, and I'm gonna fix the test code, and it should work. So by the magic of editing, I'm gonna go fix it. Okay, so back here, let's refresh the page. I saved my code, so it's the exact same code. I'm going to refresh the page now. Let's make this smaller. Let's make this bigger. Actually, let's make it as big as we can. So our code is exactly the same here. Nothing's changed. But now let's test our solution. And voila, it works now. And again, I had a bug in the solution code that wasn't taking into account the next property, which had to be null if this is the last element. So now this one is fixed and our solution works. So I'm going to end the video here. Cheers and see you in the next one.